Welcome to Strength in the Numbers. My name is Andrew Codd, accountant, author, and commercial finance entrepreneur, and it's my job each week to bring you leaders in finance and business and deconstruct with them their real stories, insights, and hard-won lessons into practical advice on the key strengths and qualities you need to remain relevant in accounting and finance today, as well as the steps you can begin to take to elevate the impact you make to have a fun, successful, and rewarding career in accounting and finance. Now let's go over to the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Strength in the Numbers show, which you can find with detailed show notes linking to the relevant resources that will accelerate your career on sitnshow/podcast/0010. On today's show we've Peter Chisambara. Now you could say Peter has accounting and finance in his blood, since his father and brother are also accountants, and he never really had any other career in mind. And on this show in particular, Peter helps us address some of the scaremongering around Industry 4.0, the impact of all this digital disruption, how we can perhaps embrace the change that's going on, and he does go into detail around the impacts of blockchain, robotic process automation, and how we can stay relevant as a profession and add value to our businesses. He was also very candid and shares his thoughts about how he managed to transition from going from practice to industry. And if you're ever looking to start blogging or writing articles on LinkedIn, he shares some very practical baby steps on how to start that contribution process. So it was absolutely fantastic to get to talk to Peter on the show. Peter's an extremely positive person. He's really easygoing. And as a guy with tremendous courage, it's not easy for someone relatively young to set up his own management consulting business. So he's got some fantastic words of wisdom all of us can benefit from. So without further ado, over to Peter and the show. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'd like also to greet, all our listeners, and I hope that, by the end of this podcast, they'll be able to learn something out of this.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Peter. Really, really great to have you on the show to come share your thoughts and experiences of accounting and finance with our listeners. I'd imagine they'd appreciate it if you maybe share briefly some of your story, how you got into accounting and finance, and perhaps how you ended up in your current role.
Thank you very much. I would say that, I fell into accounting probably by default. I never grew up having, I never had that proper career advice. My dad was an accountant, my elder brother was an accountant, and my other brother was an accountant. So for me, accounting was always the route to follow. And when I went to university, I chose to start accounting. I was always told that, accounting is the language of the business. So if it was the language of the business, then I thought, what, let me go for it. I started my career, I went to university in the United Kingdom, and then after I finished my degree, I worked with a firm of small accountants where I was exposed to different clients. We were dealing with small sole proprietors, we were dealing with limited companies, we were dealing with charitable organizations, we were dealing with partnerships. And I was involved, in the crux of the financial accounting. I spent my years there for about 3.5 years with the company, and then I left. I went into industry and I joined a company called Allied PRA, where I was involved in management accounting. And this is where I got exposed to the excitement of finance adding value to the business. At that time when I was in practice, I was doing my CIMA. And then after I joined the management accounting, I then left and then went to South Africa. And then I started working as a financial controller, and I was with the company for 4.5 years. I left that place this year in June. And then from there, I started running my own consulting practice, as you have mentioned.
It's like you've got accounting in your blood. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is fair to say, yeah.
And I suppose what really was the big difference for you when you ended up in industry and running your own business versus maybe when you started out?
When I was in practice, I think the main focus was making sure that the numbers were correct. So it was, more regulatory focused. You have to make sure that the set of financials that I'm presenting, they're up to the accounting standards. I was never really much into driving the performance of the business. But when I went into industry, then you are now working on interpreting the meaning of those numbers. You are now, instead of just saying, okay, we have accumulated so much profitability, you now start asking questions. What is the drivers? What are the drivers behind that profitability? What are the drivers behind our revenues? Where are we going? Where can we improve? I was also then introduced, to the concept of budgeting, forecasting, and then you start, instead of having a fixed mindset of saying, okay, we are only looking for the next 12 months, you start thinking beyond 12 months. So I think that was the most exciting thing about it.
That's quite a big step change. And I suppose now, given that there was so much change there, like what's exciting you most or at the moment about your current work?
What is exciting me most about my current work is that no single day is the same. I'm involved, I'm working with different clients. I'm working with different, there are different sizes, different organizations. One day I might be involved, in providing business performance insights to the decision makers or to the stakeholders. The other day I'm involved in finance process reviews, or the other day I'm involved in providing recommendations, probably that are related to investment proposals or projects. So this is something that is really exciting, and one experience that you learn in one industry, you can always, take it to the next industry, or you can always take it to another client, and then you build on that. And the fact also that finance has changed from the time that I started my career to today. It's just, exciting that new things are happening, and finance is now being involved in the business, which was never the case before when we started, because we were always regarded as, the boring number crunchers in the back office. But now finance are there, we are playing the front row. We are the front players. We are making sure that, our business partners, they've got accurate, timely, reliable information that they can use to make real strategic decisions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Peter. And that's why maybe we fell into accounting and finance when we started off, but it's really a great place to be, a really great place where you can sort of have a rewarding career, make a real purposeful difference, and really strong contribution to our organization's performances. So I'm glad you touched on that. I'm just trying to sort of think though, in terms of making that transition from practice to industry to running your own business to being on the front line driving the business performance, like sort of what qualities or what ways have you had to develop yourself to be even better at the role you're currently doing?
I think I had to develop a learning habit. One of my mentors, I think most of our listeners would know him. His name is Gary Calkins. I've come a long way, with Gary Calkins from the days I was back in the UK up to now. And he has always, advised me or mentored me, to be passionate about what I want to do, to always, have an open mindset, be open to learn new things. Don't be, an all it or no person. So I've taken that to heart, and I've always said, okay, fine, I'm coming from practice. This is a different industry. I'm going into industry. So what qualities can I bring, into industry? Of course, there is the soft skills that are transferable, and you have to develop on that one. So you ask yourself, how am I going to develop? When I was in industry, I remember that if I want to improve my communication skills, I don't have to sit on my desk. I have to go and speak to the different business partners, engage with them, ask them what are their troubles, what do they expect from finance. As you build on that one, you're also developing your leadership skills. You're also developing your partnership skills. Then you leave and you go into industry. This is now into business. Sorry, this is a different ballgame. You are used to getting a paycheck at the end of the month, but now with business, you don't know when your next paycheck is coming. So you then have to develop yourself like a fund. How am I going, to get business? And this is where I think for me, the relationship skills are important. If you can manage a relationship with your prospective clients, you build on that one. You deliver the value, they are definitely going to refer to the next person, and then the chain continues like that. At the same time, I've also learned that if I wanted, to build relationships, why not be on LinkedIn, a platform where, there are different professionals. You offer value, you offer back to the community, somebody's definitely going to get in touch. And then it helps you in the long run.
Fantastic advice. And very well articulated in how you progressed from one to the other, and the way you ended it on there with relationships, even virtual ones on LinkedIn. So that's how we got connected. And one of the things that I'm really impressed with you, Peter, is your just willingness to offer a thought, an opinion in a very constructive way. And that's the thing that impresses me, because by doing that, there's some articles I've written that I thought were really good. Just your comment has actually enhanced them even further. And people will see that, and if they'll put one and one together, they'll probably get a score of 3, because it's just improving the value of what everyone's reading out there, and then hopefully what we take away and go back and put into practice. So that's really great that you keep doing that. Just out of interest, for those that maybe want to make the first steps with getting into LinkedIn and or even other social media platforms or building those relationships you were saying, what's maybe perhaps some good first steps they can take?
I've always believed that, life is not a fixed journey. So as well as, as building a profession or being on LinkedIn. For a start, open an account. Once you've opened an account, don't be focused too much on the number of connections that you're going to have. I know there's a difference, some believe in the power of high numbers, but I believe in the power of value. What am I getting from a person? So for me, what has worked especially for me is, when I joined LinkedIn, I wanted to develop relationships with key people that I know that they're going to be helpful. My strategy is not to have as many, probably millions and thousands of followers. I want to keep that direct relationship. That's for a start. Who knows, maybe in future, the growth will be that massive. But always, know that what you want to expect out of that, social media platform. What are you there for? Are you there to engage with people? Or are you there to spread the noise? Or are you there to just to listen to the noise? And once you're on that platform, always look for people whom you feel that, you're always going to, you share an interest for a start. When I started, for me, because I'm an accounting and finance professional, I wanted to connect more as well with people who are in accounting and finance so that I get to know from them. I don't believe that I'm an expert in everything that I know all. So I wanted to learn from them. And as you continue or as you progress, then your first connections, they are going to refer you to their second connections. Then you build your network on that one. The same applies as well with Twitter. You have to be very, there's a lot of noise that is happening out there, but do you really want to consume all that noise? So for me on Twitter, I also did follow the same strategy. I looked at the kind of people that are going to enhance my career, the kind of people or organizations that I'm going to learn a lot from. And I follow those organizations first, and then I build on that one.
Some great practical steps there, Peter. Particularly how we can sort of build relationships, a very human activity, leveraging technology that perhaps wasn't there when we started out in our careers. I was sort of curious, we're talking a lot about the human side of a very numbers-driven, I suppose, profession. I sort of want to maybe shift gears a bit to maybe look at some of the technological trends at the moment. And one in particular you've written a bit about was the potential of cognitive computing. I think you actually made the statement in one of your articles, don't ignore the potential of cognitive computing. So I was just hoping for those listeners in our audience, maybe not as familiar with cognitive computing as others, could you perhaps maybe elaborate a bit more on what it is and why we shouldn't ignore it?
Thank you very much, Andrew, for mentioning the article that I wrote. As you have rightly said that, technology is changing the face of accounting and finance. It's different from the way when we started. Everything was manual based. Remember, it was paper based, and then it came to spreadsheets. And now we are living in the digital age, where some are actually calling it the fourth industrial revolution, where everything is digitally driven. And I believe that, we shouldn't be ignoring it because there's actually potential. The face of finance is changing. As finance professionals, we are no longer the number crunchers, like I said before. We want to be seen as adding value. We want to be seen as partnering with the business. And what best way can we achieve that one is we have to leverage the new technologies. We are living as well in an age where there's a lot of data out there, big data. And this big data, in the past, we would only make decisions based on the information that is in the corporate financial ERPs. But now we've got data outside. We are talking about social media data. We're talking about competitor data. We're talking about mobile data. We're talking about sensors. We're talking about Internet of Things. All these data, there's an opportunity to mine insights from that data. So now, if you are going to rely or to depend on manual spreadsheets, it is going to take us probably forever just, to combine that data, to consolidate that data, to store that data. And this is where cognitive technology is coming. Cognitive technology, just, to define in a simple way, it is a branch of, these are super highly powered computers. They are algorithm driven, and they help to, to process complex information in a matter of seconds. They combine, all these sorts of information. They can combine information that is coming from the internet, from your social media, from your mobile applications, from your sensors, from your internal ERPs. And then they can combine that information together. And once they've combined information together, they can deduce patterns in split seconds. But the good thing about this cognitive computing, especially artificial intelligence, is that the human, the computers, they actually train like a human. They learn from the human. You feed the computer with raw data, and then they can learn from the human. They can pick up the patterns. So all those repetitive, all those, routine transaction processes that, we dread to do, the computer can actually do it for us. I'll give you an example, the application of artificial intelligence. Not only is it being applied in finance, in the legal fraternity, it's also being applied. Imagine, all the regulations that are there. Artificial intelligence, what it does, it studies all the cases that are out there, all the regulations that a human being can take probably months and years if they have to do it manually. And then it can identify trends. And then it can identify trends, it can identify patterns. Some of the investment industry, artificial intelligence is also being applied. What it does is they study all the data. You feed the computer with the data. It deduces all the information about the market, about companies, the work that investment analysts are doing to write reports. And then it can write, or it can tell you which is the best, investment to go for. So I think we shouldn't be ignoring this cognitive computing in the area of finance. As we know, finance, there is a lot of transaction data that is involved. And we cannot spend more time trying to make sure that this data is correct, trying to make sure that this data is clean. What we need is, to spend more time in analytical stuff, on value-adding stuff. And this is where let's not ignore it. Take, for example, robotics. Robotics, what you can do is, I'll give an example of a software that I like more. It's a Blackline. Blackline, what it does is it can help you to automate all these routine processes that I'm talking about, which means you can close your month-end period closer very fast. For instance, come month-end, all finance professionals, they work late hours, they work long hours, they go home very late. But with robotics, you can process all the repetitive tasks, your journals that you need to know. You can process all incoming invoices. You can automate them. You can override, all the invoices that are overdue. You can automate that. And once you automate that, come the end of the month, you all know that you're only going to be doing maybe a few, 15%, 10% of what you're normally supposed to be doing the month end. And then you close your books maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. And then the rest of the time you are now focusing on what? On analyzing the books. Then we talk of blockchain. This blockchain, it's redefining, the transaction model for many businesses. What blockchain does is it leaves a digital trace of all the transactions that you have processed. And in finance, it's very important because we always have to leave an audit trail. This will help to prevent any fraud that might arise because there is a digital trail. Once that digital trail is there with blockchain, nobody can erase it. And I think it's a good thing for us because you don't have to go again and start sifting through a lot of paperwork, a lot of manuals, just to see where is the audit trail coming from. Then we also talk about cloud computing. This cloud computing, I think what is really good about it as well is that as finance professionals, we need to spend more time adding value. Cloud computing, the old ERP systems that we've had before, what they have not done for us is what cloud computing is doing for us. We have spent so much money, upfront cost, in implementing, in maintaining these old legacy systems. But with these new systems now, you run them as software as a service or maybe as an infrastructure as a service. So you only pay for what you are using, or you only pay for a person. And in this case, you're also reducing your costs. But then at the same time, you're increasing your process efficiencies, you're improving your cost efficiencies, you're leaving more time, to do the analytical stuff that I think is really, really important.
That's quite comprehensive, Peter. It's really where I don't think anyone after listening to you really has any excuse to continue ignoring these cognitive computing technologies. And you mentioned a book as well, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. I think it was by Klaus Schwab. Highly recommend people read that as well. I think it's essential reading now if we actually want to understand better these technologies. And the way you've articulated it there, I love the way you've linked it back with our profession in a very clear manner. So as I said, I don't think we can ignore these anymore. Just maybe sort of thinking the other side of the coin, you're, I guess, fairly optimistic about these. I like the way that It'll free up time potentially for us to go analyze the numbers so we can take those to the business so they can make better business decisions and ultimately lead to more successful outcomes for our business partners and our organizations. But then again, I think in the other side of the coin is where we've got some instances where there could be some challenges with maybe adopting these technologies. Are there any sort of challenges in your mind that we need to be mindful of, or should we even fear these technologies?
I don't think we should fear these technologies. Of course, there are going to be challenges in terms of implementing these technologies. As I say that we are now living in a digital world and data driven world. So one of the challenges I think that we'll probably have to deal with is in terms of the data governance. In terms of the data integration. Most finance professionals are still, or most finance organizations, they are still running on legacy systems. These systems are not able, to communicate with these new technologies. So I think this is where one of the challenges that we're going to face in terms of integration, and how we can overcome this challenge is, I think, finance needs to work. No longer have to look at this from a finance perspective only, but from an outcome perspective. This is no longer a function, a finance function. This is no longer only for finance, but it is for the greater cause of the organization. And I think this is where finance now has to learn together with the IT people. They have to partner with IT. I think IT partner with finance because the two speak the different languages. But finance speak to IT in the language of business that IT will understand. Tell them that, okay, we want to achieve 1, 2, 3. And then IT will then also say, okay, fine, are we able to achieve this, or are we not able to achieve this? So, but I think data is going to be just one of the challenges. The other challenge I think that we must also just be wary of is, as I've said, that these machines, they are algorithms, or they are powered by algorithms. Let's not forget that it is a human being who's coding these algorithms. So, can we accurately trust the code? We have heard of cases, especially with Facebook or with Microsoft, where they've, tried to test artificial intelligence programs, and then the projects, they failed because they were not performed. The smart machines, as some are calling them, were not performing what they intended to be performed. So I think those are some of the issues that we have to be wary of. And then, of course, the other concern or the other challenge that we have to be prepared for is in terms of data security. Yes, we are going to benefit, in terms of process efficiencies, in terms of, customer enhancement, in terms of employee productivity. But as I said, that this is all dealing with data, and these machines, they consume massive amounts of data. And if we are to have a data breach, what are the implications on the company? What are the implications on the individuals that we are holding the data for example, the customers, if we deal with customer sensitive data? So those are some of the issues I think that we have to be very, to consider as we implement these new technologies.
And actually, if we're thinking about it and the way you've described it, we actually have the training already to do this. It's not really having to develop new skills. It's maybe looking at things in a slightly different way to what we have been and applying our existing skills into these spaces.
Definitely. I agree with you. Definitely. Yes. I think, we have been, we have the skills that, we have developed over the years as we were training, and application is where it matters most. If we cannot apply, we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
Got to step it up a gear. We'll move into our lightning question round. If you were looking back and you were to give some advice perhaps to your younger self when you were starting out in accounting and finance, what sort of advice would you give?
I would actually advise myself, never to be afraid of failure, never to be afraid, to grab an opportunity once it presents itself. These days, a professional career journey, I don't think it's as linear as you want it to be, or there's a normal distribution where you say, I'm going to start my career as an accounts assistant, and in the next 3 years, I become probably a financial accountant. In the next 4 years, I become management accountant or financial controller, and eventually being a CFO of the company. I think with the way, what we're just talking about now, how technology is changing, the look of finance, and it's no longer, enough just to have deep finance knowledge. Of course, it's still important, but you also need, to borrow from other fields. So if you are never to be afraid, you are going to be able, to grab any opportunity. If an opportunity presents to you to go and get experience in another line of business, be it marketing, be it sales, I would say grab that opportunity with both hands. Unfortunately for me, I never got that opportunity to work in another function. I've always worked in finance, but I believe that, if I'd worked in another function, be it marketing, sales, business development, or operations, I would be a better finance professional than I'm currently today. And they also say that, experience is the best teacher in life. And I believe the more you embrace yourself, or the more you engage yourself in these other opportunities, you are going to, at some stage, you are going to realize that what is it that I love most to do, and what is it that I'm skilled to do. And once you've pinpointed that area that you are very skilled and that you love to do, that you are passionate about, you are going to grab it, and then you're going to develop on it, and then you're going to work on it, and then you become an expert in that area. So rotation is key.
Great advice, Peter. Couldn't agree anymore. There's no better teacher than experience, and it's one of those old sayings that stood the test of time. I suppose that's very good practical advice. Just thinking, perhaps if there was a book, an audio book that you'd recommend to listeners for them to go check out, what book would you recommend?
When I joined the industry, one of the books that I remember my manager gave me a copy of the book was Good to Great by Jim Collins. For me at the time, it didn't make any sense why, I'm working in finance and you're giving me a book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. But, as I started reading the book and as my career progressed, and when I also reflect, I now realize why he gave me that, Good to Great. For me, I think Good to Great, it presents a solid foundation, of what makes a company move from a low-hanging fruit, if you might want to call it that way, to an admired brand, or to a greater company. Sometimes we can be comfortable with where we are, but I think, being comfortable with where we are is not what we want as finance professionals. There's always a saying that, that finance is always the last to embrace technology or to embrace, new systems, new processes. We have to aspire to be great. And although, Good to Great looks mostly at the companies, that have shifted from good to great, I think it also helps at a personal level, in the sense that, the principles are applicable. For example, it talks about leadership, what makes great leadership. It talks about, discipline. And talking about leadership, it talks about that, great leaders, they ask questions, they do not have answers. And I think in this world that we are living, of big data, of digital transformation, the best professionals, accounting and finance professionals, and the best organizations are not going to be the ones that have got all the answers, but are going to be the ones with an inquisitive mind, who are curious about the future, who are always going to be asking questions. What can we do to improve? Where are we going? What are the emerging trends? What are the emerging risks? What are we prepared for them? How best should we prepare for them? What are the new technologies? What does the future for finance look like? So asking all those questions, I think will help you, as accounting professionals to be good, to move from good to great. So that's why I like Good to Great.
What a great analogy. Yes, I like that idea of asking better questions and not necessarily needing all the answers, but the process of answering the questions will lead us along that path of moving from good to great. Again, highly recommend it, and I'll include links to these books and resources that we're mentioning on today's show in the show notes, which you can find at our website, sitnshow.com. Before we sort of start finishing up, Peter, would there be sort of any other advice that you could perhaps give to other accounting and finance professionals, maybe to focus on for the next 12 months, to maybe get ahead some of the changes we talked earlier about, build for a better future so we can go from good to great?
As I said, we talked about, cognitive computing, and partner also artificial intelligence, where we say that, that these technologies are simulating the human thinking. There's also some, I'm not sure whether it's fear mongering that is out there, where they're saying that, technology is going to flush out all humans, in all white collar jobs. And you might receive that fear, and you start asking yourself that, am I going to be relevant? What am I going to do? But one thing I love about these, technologies is they can augment the human. So it's both the human and the smart machines working, We still need that creative thinking. I don't think, we're at a stage where these machines can They've got that creative thinking, that, that human intelligence that is needed, that emotional intelligence, that empathy that, that is provided by the human. So I would say, for the next 12 months, if you're an accounting, and finance professional, embrace the change in all its forms. Do not be afraid. I know change is very difficult for everyone, but embrace the change. Also focus on professional development. One way that I always try, to help myself to make sure that I remain relevant is I listen to webinars. I attend seminars. I attend workshops. I read white papers. I read books. A few weeks ago here in South Africa, there was a finance indaba. It was a 2-day program. It was a meeting of all the finance professionals. For me, it was really enlightening because I get to know the new technologies that are coming. I got to meet, different finance professionals. They share their story with you. So be focused on your professional development. Don't say that because I qualified 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, that's it, I'm done. It doesn't mean that, for you to continue with professional development, you have to go back again to school to get another degree, to get another certificate. I love what Warren Buffett says. Warren Buffett says he spends a day reading. On a typical day, he reads about 500 pages. And for me, that is a useful skill that you can master. Might not start with reading 500 pages a day, but maybe 2 pages, 3 pages, You learn something, you apply it. There's a difference in accumulating knowledge and applying that knowledge. Apply in bits and pieces. Accumulate knowledge in bits and pieces, and then apply that knowledge. Once you apply that knowledge, you're going, that's the way that you can add value. But as I've also said, that we have to embrace change. We have to develop a commercial awareness. Make it, your goal for the next 12 months. Okay, if I've been regarded as a historical looking person, now these next 12 months, how about I change my mindset? How about I change my perspective? Instead of looking only what is happening within the business, let me develop an outer mindset. Let me be interested in the economic policies, in the economics of the world. How is it going to affect my journey? How is it going to affect as a professional accountant, as a finance professional? Be forward looking, collaborate more with the business, engage more. Don't be comfortable, sitting on your desk, number crunching the spreadsheets. Go out there, engage more with your business partners, ask meaningful questions, form conversations with them. I think that will help us, in the next 12 months. But at the same time, I think embrace change as it comes, especially technology. Find ways, how am I going to leverage these new technologies to improve my company's business model? How am I going to leverage these new technologies to improve efficiencies? I mean, if we are to look at what is happening today, for me, I believe in future, the companies that are able to leverage, data, analytics, and all these new technologies will separate, the winners from the losers. It's no longer a way of saying, there's another book that also, I like about, I think it's Marshall Goldsmith, who says, what got you here won't get you there. The practices that got us here for where we are today, I don't believe they are the same practices that will take us, into the future of where we want to be. We want to be regarded as strategic business partners, as value adders. It is where we want to be invited, to sit on the table and provide strategic advice. So we have to embrace change as it comes.
Peter, that's a great way to start looking to wrap up the show. Can't keep standing still. We got to keep moving forward. And what got us where we are today isn't necessarily going to be the strengths or skills that are going to get us to where we need to go tomorrow. But regardless, a good platform to work from and build from. And that's really what we've put this show together for, is give people insight in terms of how to leverage what we have today and then build on our strengths in the numbers into the future. So, Peter, if people are interested in connecting with you and learning some more about you, what's the best way they can reach out and find you?
I am on LinkedIn. They can just search me as Peter Chisambara, and then my profile will pop through there. They can follow me there where I publish articles, some of which that you have mentioned. I am also on Twitter. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is at ERPM Insights. That's for my company. They can find me there on Twitter. And then I also have my personal website, which is www.erpminsights.com. So this is for the business. There's a blog as well there where I normally post articles. Some of the articles that I post on LinkedIn, they are not on my blog, and there are articles that are on my blog that are not on my LinkedIn. So they can also get to connect with me there.
Thank you very much, Peter. And again, a very thoughtful time I spent with you. I've actually felt like I've learned loads myself, and I thought I knew a little bit about this area. I feel like I've left now with some probably knowing a bit more, but also armed with some more questions to keep asking. So thank you so much for provoking those thoughts in us and investing the time in this show to share your thoughts and experiences with our audience. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I also like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my journey. And as I've said, I'm also here to learn. I don't regard myself, as an expert. And I think, the only way that we can grow is when we impart knowledge on one another. So I really thank you for that.
So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to know more about our guests today, their bio, and follow up on the resources mentioned during the show, you can find all the relevant links and more at sitnshow.com. There you'll also be able to get access to earlier shows, read the latest blogs. There's also an opportunity to subscribe to our newsletter, which will give you heads up as to when the next show is coming out, latest events, news, and anything that's going to be relevant to help you have a fun, rewarding and successful career in finance and accounting. And just before you go, we really appreciate your feedback. If there's something we can do better on the show, something that's not working, or something you'd like to see, even a guest you'd like for us to invite onto the show, someone who you think might be able to benefit you more and also the rest of our community, please let me know. You can email me. I'm at andrew@sitnshow.com, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message so I know how you found me and we can connect. And really, it's our community that'll make the show. If we keep engaging and driving each other on, we'll keep on building our strength in the numbers. When all is said and done, if we can do the numbers better and finance better, we'll create more opportunities for ourselves, our friends, our families, our communities and our businesses. So until next time, have a good rest of the week, take care, and let's keep building our strength in the numbers.